Hurricane Beryl packed a punch along the Texas coastline and points inland. Good evening, I'm Mike Nasa with this Monday evening update on Beryl. There's the radar of the southern United States, and notice Hurricane Beryl came ashore near Matagorda, Texas very early Monday morning and pounded Houston and areas there in southeastern and eastern Texas, and it weakened to a tropical storm, and it's now a tropical depression in the general area between Tyler, Texas, and Shreveport, Louisiana. Here's the latest as of 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tropical Depression Beryl was at 32.2 north, 34.8 west, and again, that's about 30 miles to the east of Tyler, Texas, and off to the west of Shreveport, Louisiana. It's moving north-northeast at 16. Winds are down to 35 miles per hour, certainly different than about, say, 15 hours ago when it made landfall as a strengthening Category 1 hurricane near Matagorda, Texas, with winds officially 80 miles per hour, but don't be surprised if in the final report on the hurricane it was a little stronger than that, maybe 85, 90 miles an hour. They had a lot of wind damage in areas there along the Texas coast. It should continue to move north-northeast at 16. It will dissipate on Tuesday, and by Wednesday and Thursday move up in the Great Lakes region and spread a little bit of wet weather in areas of the Tennessee and Ohio valleys and the Mississippi Valley as well. Now, the tropical storm warnings and watches, those are all discontinued. Obviously, the hurricane watches and warnings are all discontinued. We don't have any more threat along the coast, but it's still going to be kicking up the Gulf of Mexico for the next day or so before things calm down. The damage has been done. It's been done. Look at this power outage map. Texas, you guys really took a hit there, especially in areas there of eastern Texas. Look at all the power outages. I hate losing power. I feel you. Again, the winds really cause problems in downtown Houston. Some of the videos I saw of wind whipping through buildings, and that was with this thing coming ashore in Matagorda as a Category 1. Imagine if it came ashore as a Category 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Houston, you had a problem, but it could have been a lot worse. There's the satellite imagery, and again, there's the cloud shield pulling all the way into areas of Indiana and Illinois. But don't be fooled, like I showed on the radar, the moisture is much further to the south than the cloud shield. So the moisture goes into areas of Missouri to St. Louis and southern Illinois, while the cloud shield goes all the way up into Michigan and Wisconsin. So again, it's not all moisture with this, but it is a lot of high cloud blowing away from the weakening tropical depression. Again, this will all pool in this direction the next couple of days. The rainfall is going to be a threat, but probably 1 or 2 inches along the path, especially in areas of Illinois and Indiana, maybe up towards Michigan, but overall not too wet of a system. There is a slight flood threat into areas of Illinois, and the higher threat is obviously down near Fort Worth and Shreveport, where the system is located, the center of the system right now. Some wet weather, though, moving through the Great Lakes in Wednesday and Thursday timeframe. There's the radar out of Houston. Man, it's really calmed down. Now you got to just wait for power to come back, and you're going to have to deal with the mugginess and the heat without air conditioning. It's awful. Don't use generators inside. So many people die in every tropical storm and hurricane, and their deaths are caused by people who die of inhaling carbon monoxide and all the fumes from using generators inside. So don't do that, please. But again, it's going to be a muggy night, Monday night. Hopefully we'll get the power back up and running in this area here of the upper Texas coast. Here's the tail from the departing tropical cyclone, bringing some heavy weather along the coastline there from Port Arthur, Sabine Pass, on over to Cameron, Louisiana. There is a tornado watch. Again, we could have tornadoes in this system. Whenever you have a landfalling tropical cyclone, there is severe weather. We have one here from Tyler, Texas, down to Lufkin, and then over to Lake Charles, Alexandria, and on up into Texarkana. And then we have another one further north into areas of Little Rock and Hot Springs in Arkansas. So again, combine that humidity of the summertime July heat with the moisture from a Gulf of Mexico hurricane that made landfall, and you're going to have this threat of severe weather. We've been looking here. We've got tornado warnings. Let's see. This is as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Shreveport, you've had some tornado warnings, and also areas there of severe weather in Little Rock region. So again, we're going to watch this as time goes by. Now we have good news after Beryl, which is pushing there into the central United States. We ain't got nothing. There's nothing going on out there in the Atlantic. We have a wave in the central Atlantic. This isn't going to do anything. And we have an upper level low here north of the Bahamas, with a little bit of thunderstorm activity. But other than that, it has really quieted down, which is usually what you see in early July when you don't have abnormal Category 4 and 5 hurricanes ravaging the Caribbean. But that was a long-tracked, rare event. Philip Klotzbach, Dr. Philip Klotzbach from Colorado State University, he's a really good guy. I've actually spoken to him and interviewed him on many occasions. I think the most recent time was in the early 2010s at a Florida Governor's Hurricane Conference. He posted on Twitter this PDF file which shows all of the meteorological records and facts on Hurricane Beryl. It was the strongest maximum sustained winds for an Atlantic hurricane prior to August on record. Now remember, the record goes back to 1851, but we probably underestimate stuff until the satellite era in about 1966. So when you say this is the strongest hurricane in July ever, we're talking about going back to 1851 and perhaps even as recently as the 1960s. But 165 miles an hour, that beats Emily 2005, the old record. It had a 934 millibar pressure, the third lowest for an Atlantic hurricane prior to August after Emily and Dennis in 2005. The earliest Category 4 hurricane on record, June 30th. The old record was Dennis, July 8th, 2005. Beryl became a hurricane at 49.3 west. That's the furthest east an Atlantic hurricane had formed in the tropics, south of 23.5 north in June on record. The old record was a hurricane that struck Texas, Brownsville, in 1933. And I should note 1933 was one of the most active hurricane seasons ever. If we used names back then, we would have definitely exhausted the name list. So it's not good to see a record of Beryl beating a record of a season like that. It had the fastest intensification rate in 24 hours this early in the year. The previous record was Bertha, 2008, which stayed out at sea in July 2008. And it created a lot of accumulated cyclone energy, the most by a single Atlantic storm prior to August 1st on record. And it was also the most major hurricane days on record this early, both times beating Emily. The landfall in Grenada, 150 miles per hour, a Category 4 on July 1st. This was the strongest hurricane on record to make landfall in Grenada. As best as we could figure, Hurricane Ivan passed 10 miles south in 2004 with winds of 125 miles an hour, damaging 90% of the homes on the island. This hurricane made landfall on the island of Carriacou, which is part of Grenada, with 150 mile an hour winds. Officially, it was a Category 2 on the Yucatan Peninsula, the first Category 2 or stronger to hit Quintana Roo in July since Emily in 2005. And Matagorda, Texas, 80 miles an hour, Cat 1. This is the earliest hurricane landfall in Texas since Bonnie hit in June of 1986. And it's the 10th hurricane to make landfall in Texas in the month of July on record, and the first since Hurricane Hannah back in 2020. So, when we look at the storm's name Beryl, this name was first used in 82, forgettable tropical storm, 88 tropical storm, 94 tropical storm, 2000 tropical storm. By this time, I'm tracking it. 2006 a tropical storm, 2012 a tropical storm, a weak little hurricane in 2018, and now the earliest Category 4 and 5 hurricane in any season in the Atlantic, devastated islands of the Caribbean as a Category 4 hurricane, slammed into areas there of the Yucatan, impacted Jamaica, Texas. My guess is this is the last we'll ever see of a Hurricane Beryl. The name will probably be stricken from the hurricane name list. So that'll do it on the tropics. Again, Beryl, quite a memorable event. This was quite a memorable hurricane as it made landfall there in Texas. As its final destination, it now moves into the central United States with some rainfall, especially for areas there of Arkansas and Missouri. We will continue to keep an eye on the tropics, but for now it looks like Hurricane Beryl is off to the history books as a classic Caribbean cruiser, long-track major hurricane, impacting many locations, causing a lot of damage and many fatalities. and that should be the end of Hurricane Beryl. So I'm Mike Naso with the latest on Beryl, and I will keep an eye on the tropics the next few weeks. It might be a quiet July after this, but then once we get to August and September with this hurricane season, all bets are off.